Good morning! Another angling adventure. Let's see how we get on today. It's not a blank. We have a fish.
A wat jacket?
Yeah. Not a bad fish.
Oh, aye. Because we have
We'll get him released. And here we go. This is the best part of, I would say it's nearly £10.
How far off it?
Nearly £10.
So it's good white fish, you know.
I'll get you to take a picture of it. I'll try not to fall on my ass going into this jetty. But
From you grabbing that.
no, it's all good. I'll just hold it here and we'll get. Calm down.
Yep, lovely fish, buddy. Cracking fish.
And there it goes. No harm to it.
Brilliant.
We're off the mark. It's not a blank. I'm going to be generous and estimate that fish just to be around about £10. Nice, thick, chunky fish. Wasn't going to weigh it. That fish was caught on a salmon parr, not a roach, I'm just remembering. I've cast out a roach, so I have a roach and a whole mackerel out. But it's not a blank. I've caught a pike. I was beginning to think I'd lost my mojo there. The last couple of sessions with no fucking pike. That's the problem when you're fishing kind of in a restricted space. As it cut in towards the reeds here on my right, it took out the other line. So it just caused a bit of a tangle, so when I got it into the net I just cut the lead line, cut and then untangled everything, and we're back out on the way there. That fish, the hooks were not in its throat, but at the back of its throat where the gill rakers are. One hook was in the scissors, one hook was in the gill raker. So instead of pulling it through the gill raker, out of its mouth, I unhooked it and slipped it out the back of its mouth, through its gills. No damage, that fish went off perfectly healthy and fine. As you've seen, it wasn't shy and disappearing when it wanted to go. But hopefully that's the first of a few today, because this place normally does a few decent runs. It all depends on what side the bream hybrids are on. If the bream hybrids are in the bowl to my right, then unfortunately the pike will be kind of over to the right. They'll be floating around the mouth of Derravore, which is just over there to my right. You've seen me fish Derravore before, that's on the big floating jetty. To my left is it's still technically classed as Upper Lough Erne, although it's more like a river, because this is like a thinner bit of water that does have a flow. It acts like a river. It will pull that way. And if you head that way, you go to Derriad, where you've seen me fish in the past, and Corridilla, where we fished that overnighter that gave me nightmares. kept having dreams of waking up underwater and drowning.
Weed fish.
Don't need them. I don't need any more weed fish. Thankfully there's touching wood. We're not going to get wiped out by fucking weed today because last weekend was brutal. I'm going to celebrate with a cup of coffee. And then we're going to see about catching some more fish. But it's not a blank. Thank Christ it's not a blank. I have to kind of keep the shouting to a minimum because the church behind us might be opening up soon. And the last thing the Church of Ireland Reverend needs to hear is bite alarms and swearing, or taking the Lord's name in vain. Not that I'm, religious, it's just words to me, but at the same time, it's somebody's belief. You gotta give them the respect they're due as a human being to let them have their beliefs. Not having a philosophical debate on a Sunday with a man of God about what words upset him and what words don't upset him. Life's too short for that. But as I'm sitting here, there's lots of roach rising on the surface, so the place is pretty active with bait. The roach, the bream, the hybrids basically will just move up and down this whole system. I personally think that especially the bream kind of set the tone. Where the bream go, the hybrids follow, and then the roach. There will be like shoals of fish that will be native to areas. You'll find perch that'll be always in the one spot. But the bream, I think that the bream are hardwired. They know the feeding areas. They know where it's best to feed. So they'll just move from one location to another, to another, to another. And by the time they get back to the location they were at the first time round, the feed, the bloodworm, the larvae, the insects will all have recovered. Because they're not going to stay on one spot and batter the place to hell, because otherwise there's nothing for them to eat. So that the bream will be constantly moving up and down the Erne. I mean, the Erne's a massive body of water. Literally, you could be fishing in one location and catch fish that next week could literally be 10 miles away from you. The same fish could literally be 10 miles away. The DERA people, the people in charge of our fisheries, the people that are meant to look after the fisheries, they tagged some bream. The bream were caught in the river section of middle of Enniskillen. They were caught in a match, and they were estimated to be like just shy of 30 years old, these fish, so they're old fish. But these fish were tagged with like a tracker. Those fish, once they spawned in Enniskillen, there's a bay in Enniskillen that's. It used to be, there was no access to boats, but they've opened it up so that boats get into it for some reason best known to the boat people. But that used to be the main spawning bay for the Erne. Then those fish would basically go back to the big loch, the lower loch, and they tracked this fish. This fish in the space of like a fortnight went from Enniskillen town down to Balleek, which is literally at the other end of the loch. It is, if you were going to swim it yourself, you wouldn't do it in a fucking week. That is how much they moved. And it basically done like a big triangle up to Balleek, then into somewhere like Castle Caldwell, that big deep bay is in there, and they basically followed the Erne around. And by the time it got to around about May time, their spawning time, they were back at Devonish Island and back ready to go through the lochs into the rivers where they spawn. Fascinating how it works, You'd hard to believe, like everyone would think like a bream's this, fat, sluggish, doesn't fight, covered in slime. Listen to carp anglers, they're not fans of bream. But for a fish to cover that much water in a relatively short time, it is definitely moving on. So, that's my theory. Could be bullshit, but that's my theory. And of course, where the bream go, the hybrids, roach bream hybrids are sterile. They don't breed. They cannot breed by their nature. They're sterile. They will have eggs. They will have semen, but it won't be fertile. It won't. They'll spawn, but nothing will come of it because they're infertile. But they're a crossbreed. It's like taking a horse and a donkey and mixing them together. You'll get a mule. The mule will be infertile. That's something that happens in nature, so that there's any hybridization sterile. You know, evolution, trick evolution. The hybrids will follow the bream. They'll probably go into the same food sources as the bream are. And the roach are just throughout the system anyway, but they'll be following the bream as well, the bigger ones. And then you'll have the pike, will be obviously on the move after their food source. Yes, there are places on the Erne where there are territorial fish. Those fish will always be there, but they're in places where there's going to be a pretty good chance year round of stuff for them to eat. There's a few jetties in Enniskillen town that I know that there's pike live under, but in the summertime and even in the wintertime, those jetties are alive with things like perch and small roach. So those pike don't have to travel for their dinner, they just sit there. Whereas especially on lower Lough Erne, because it's such a vast expanse, the pike that are there are going from feed source to feed source, so they're following the bream as well. Same as the trout. There's parts of Lough Erne that is limestone, lots of limestone on the bottom. The pike don't seem to do so well over the limestone bays. The pike, you'll not really find many pike there. Yes, there will be the odd pike there, but the pike don't seem to like the limestone bays. The trout seem to like that area though. So there is areas where the trout prefer and there is areas where the pike prefer. And yes, there's overlap. Yes, trout will get ate by pike. Yes, trout will eat pike fry and everything like that there. But that's nature. You just have to deal with that. That's just nature. There is areas that I would class as nurseries where fish of all species will spawn. Places like behind the Bow Island, I'd call it the backlock behind the Bow Islands. In there, it's reed lined, it's relatively shallow. In the summer it heats up quick with water, it gets higher water temperatures. So fish will go there, fish will spawn, and then they'll disappear back into where they normally go. And because of it's, you know, pretty shallow, it's reed lined, it's pretty fertile, fish will grow there to a certain size, and then they'll obviously navigate out to the normal shoals wherever they go. Now that's my view, that's my thinking about how the ecosystem moves. It could be wrong, I could be fucking talking out of my arse, but at least that's what I have an idea what's happening. Anyway, less job owning, more drinking coffee. See you later.
1 hour later.
I'm also road testing my new boots today. If you haven't watched the review for the new thermal welly boots, go and watch it. It's educational. Not saying it'll make your willy twitch, but it will definitely give you some advice as to what boots not to buy. You get out of Mr. Hitch's way.
Say this again. That's it.
Let's hope it does the business.
Right, the compliment.
I'm going to put out a nice popped up roach, because everybody loves a popped up roach. It's fished so that its head's up the line, so if there's any sort of toe in the water, hopefully the fish should kind of just be wiggling. At least that's the plan. Whether or not that happens is another thing. juice into a mackerel, reproduce it.
Oh, well, there's no harm in a day like that.
No. The guts are coming out of it. Not going to get much of a life out of this one, but we'll give it a go.
Another chocolate, you might pick something up, man.
I'm only putting this on to the edge of the reeds now, so it's not going to go a million miles.
Yeah.
It is only going to go out a little distance. That is this on the bottom. I'm hoping that anything coming along that reed line will be
Straight off.
and then it'll be all hands on deck to try and wrestle it away from the reed line. I don't think it'll be winding rods, it'll be more a case of getting trying to get the fish out of the reeds.
Oh, I think that's just your destiny today.
Let's be honest, the line's strong enough, it's able to pull things through the reeds. I mean, you just have to, if it goes on the reeds, you just have to be kind of almost ignorant and kind of drag it through.
Well, if any years that with Lough muck,
Yeah.
that was horrendous, some of the pegs.
Yeah, but that was back in the days when we were using stupid stuff like fucking 12-pound Maxima mainline.
Oh, nothing but the best, man.
Because as kids, that was what the best was.
Yeah.
12-pound Maxima that was like bull wire, more memory than Stephen Hawkins.
You know, when you felt good, you went on to the 15-pound stuff, and that was just brutal altogether.
That was fishing with spinning rods. Trying to cast a dead bait with a spinning rod.
Yeah.
In the days before you bought actual, you couldn't afford. I couldn't afford pike rods till I was like, I think I was 16, and even then it was like one Christmas I got a pike rod.
Yeah, same as that.
Pursuit pike. And it was a game changer having a rod that was able to cast the lead and the bait. How things have progressed.
I know, so how easy to use now, the rods. Unreal.
If we had the stuff that we have now back in the day, fishing would have been a lot different.
Oh, we might have all the gear, but the knowledge might not all been there. We learned the hard way.
My mum still has old newspaper cuttings
Oh, I
from the Pike Fishing League.
Yeah, so does mine actually.
She's got apparently there's an old picture of me holding up a pike. I don't know if it was, I think it was because they split it off because like the juniors and the seniors weren't allowed to have the same, because they had like an award for biggest pike over the year for the juniors.
The juniors had it there and different.
Yeah, because I won that
Yeah.
a couple of years. Then I won biggest. I think it caught 40 something pound of fish
in one match.
in one match.
Yeah.
And there was like a big thing made about it.
I'll mind that.
Well, the guy beside me caught sweet fuck all that day, and he was raging with me. You could see him pure raging every time he covered away the fish.
I know, I love bringing the man down to weigh your fish.
Lough muck, you're a blast from the past.
Guilty there, man.
Just then.
We have a nibble on the popped up roach. It could just be something swimming past her. Oh, there's definitely something having a tap at that rod. I'll go with it. This could be the first ever take I've managed to catch on camera. Starting the vlog. The rod tip is definitely getting bounced around by something.
Yeah, buddy. Stop them hooks and bring them home.
That's out, pulled it out.
God damn it. Very shy of taking on.
Yeah, pulled the roach out of it. Bugger. First ever time catching a take on that there, and I pulled the fucking hooks out.
Nice to get the fish in, but hey, they're fishing still, so.
Bollocks. Let's see what time it is. It's just gone 12 o'clock. I've had one pike on the bank and I've bumped one off when I went to set the hook. So 2 runs in a day. I'm not used to this action. Changed up the baits. I fired a mini bluey, which is like a type of Pacific mackerel, I think. There's other names for them like soiree and stuff like that there, or soiree. I can't pronounce the proper name. But they come from like the Pacific Ocean and the Indian Ocean. I got a bulk bag of them. They've actually been in my freezer for years. I got a bulk bag of about 200 of the damn things. And one venue I fished in particular, they really worked. But on the Erne it tends to be hit or miss. And when I was going through my freezer I found like 5 or 6 session bags of them, so they're one in the cool box today. They're about this long, they're nice silver fish, very strong, very oily. So before I cast them out I slash the sides to make sure that all the oil can escape. That one is literally fishing just past the reed line by about a rod length past the reeds in front of me, so it's not far out. And in the other rod I have a roach that's just chucked into the middle of the river. When it thaws out I'll pop it up a little bit and see what that does. The dropped run was on a popped up roach. It's a beautiful morning, man. Absolutely beautiful. Why couldn't we have had this last weekend? It's been amazing. We've just missed the church bells. They were ringing, so there'll be a church service. I wonder if we'll have the old minister down today. He's a good guy. I mean, he normally comes down and chats and says hello, and you know, doesn't cause any problems. Just comes down and chats for saying hello. And I'm getting a little. It's the tiniest little knock on the rod with the bluey. The tip of the rod's just like that there. Every now and then it just gets like a little pull and a twist. So it's like something's either coming against it, but it's not even enough to lift the drop arm. So I'm wondering what it is. It could just be like a weed bank or something, but there's no movement, there's no current, well, no real current. So I'm not sure. The tow is pulling that way, but the wind is pulling that way. So anything that's on the surface, like the scent of the fish, it'll, you know, If it's floated up to the surface and it's on the surface layers of water by the wind, it'll get blown that way. But if it's sticking to the bottom, then it's going to go that way. Can't hurt. It can't hurt. So what has happened this week in the news? Well, the grand old Duke of York, who had 10,000 men and might have had an underage girl, but he can't remember them. He's no longer the Duke of York. The Queen has sacked him. Well done, Her Majesty. The sooner she does it to Harry and his gulping bog monster, me again, wife. Cannot stand that woman. Cannot stand her at all. This creature that's come out of nowhere and thinks that because they don't abide by her rules to her drumbeat, that's not her being told, no, the world doesn't revolve around you, that's racism. I'm pretty patriotic. I quite like the Queen. I think in her lifetime she has seen quite a lot. She's survived quite a lot. But I don't know what the Duke of York, or the ex-Duke of York, I don't know what the fuck he was thinking, having sex with a 17-year-old. The story is a little bit deeper than it's been released to the media. This 17-year-old who's been painted by the media as some sort of virtuous poor girl that's been suckered in by evil men and sodomized or whatever. The same woman was trafficking people that were like in their teens, like 12 and 13 and 14, trafficking them to Jeffrey Epstein. So she's clearly a paragon of virtue, you know. I think the whole Jeffrey Epstein thing is disgusting. I think it's pretty clear that Mr. Epstein never suicided himself. He had some help with that department. I would, if I was a betting man, I would bet my money that he got Clinton-sided for having the audacity to bring the Clintons into it. Funny the amount of journalists and people that criticise the Clintons that wind up shooting themselves 12 times in the back of the head, but it's been ruled as a suicide, or hanging themselves in a suicide cell where your bedclothes are made of paper and there is 24-hour TVs and there is guards watching your every move, but the guards fell asleep and the cameras didn't work that day. You know, the whole thing smells. And it's laughable that the media don't pick up on it, but what can you do? I hope everyone that was involved in the whole Jeffrey Epstein's paedophile island shit, I hope they're all exposed and I hope they all burn. And be that the head of Google, Mr. Bezos, and Bill Gates, and a few other very high profile people. Very high profile people that are now shitting themselves in case Ghislaine Maxwell spills the beans on them and publishes their names in her little black book of Get Me Out of Jail. What a world we live in, eh? It looks like my my bluey has been picked up. I don't know if it's on or if it's just been the waves. No, it is the waves. Nothing, mate, that was the waves. Yeah. Just the waves. I'm gonna put this back out. There we go, that's the bluey. And they are oily and good. So you just have to make them do the business today. There's a little gap in the reeds there that I'm trying to get the line through. There we go. Cooking with Scopes time. Boiling ourselves, we're going to butter the brioche buns because butter bread needs even more butter.
Yep.
Try not to kick over that. So there's the signal. Try to not kick over the fucking. What do you want, sausages and bacon or just sausages?
Oh, whatever you want. I do the two if you want, or there's breakfast slices there too if you want.
Do sausages and breakfast slices.
Yeah.
Sausages. Awesome, we're having sausages and breakfast slices. A throwback to the days of Kuwait where you couldn't get pork. You had to have breakfast slices made out of turkey rashers.
So tasty.
Well, when it came to the choice of ration pack or turkey bacon, you didn't care.
Yeah, you're right. Must thank that angler next time it goes past. Cheating.
I don't think anyone minds.
I certainly don't. Oh, yeah.
Yes, that oil is hot.
Smell the
Tested the heat in my thumb. Now we're just going to have to sausage sandwiches with bacon slices or breakfast slices. It won't be long cooking them bad boys.
No. These are going well.
Got to enjoy a sausage sandwich. Those are the breakfast slices because everybody needs random meat with their sausages. Lovely. I get comments asking me, oh, I'd love to see your cholesterol numbers. To cholesterol numbers, I have like one fried breakfast a week, and it's when I'm fishing. It won't do me any harm. I'm already a fat bastard. I don't care. But thanks for your concern about my health. That light that's lighting up the shot here isn't the sun, because the sun's long gone over there. It's actually the moon. We have a full moon coming on. So, full moons are always great in Fermanagh because it brings out the wild hairy beasties in a skeleton town centre. somehow they manage to cram themselves into miniskirts and high heels, and then they attack en masse. You have to defend yourself by flinging drinks at them, and then chips later on at night time.
Chips out of the muck truck.
It's getting to that point in the evening now where it's time to call it a day, I think. It's just gone 5 past 5, and we still have daylight, so it tells you that the nights are getting a bit shorter, which is great. It means we have a bit more daylight, which is also great. But it's nothing's really been happening since those pike we had in the runs we had, but mostly this morning sort of time. So I think it might be time to pack up and take a slow drive home. It's been a good day. It's been better than last weekend. I've caught fish. It wasn't a blank, which was great because this last few sessions out and I blanked. It felt like I was cursed. I'd clearly offended somebody and they were out with the no pike voodoo doll. But anyway, I want to say thank you to everyone that's liking, sharing, subscribing to the channel. It's really helping me out. If you haven't subscribed to the channel yet, then perhaps give it a wee go. It's free, doesn't cost you a single penny. All you have to do is click the subscribe button. If you're really hardcore, you can click the bell icon. The bell icon means every time I post random shit to YouTube, you get notified that I'm sending random shit to YouTube. I did a check during the week and found out that it's near enough 50% of the people who watch the videos on YouTube aren't subscribed to the channel. But it's either a whole load of new people just finding it by accident and watching a bit and then pissing off, or it's the same sort of people that's watching it all the time, they just haven't subscribed. So, if you haven't subscribed, do me a favour and do that. And until next time, guys, tight lines.
Just then.
Is it something really small or something just about to take off with?
Just as I fucking said the final thing for the video, the outro, I start to get a bite.
I take the fucking thing and run.
Just as I turn around and say, that's it troops, tight lines, blah 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 blah, the drop arm starts to fuck around. Yeah, go on, take it, boy.
Supper. Everybody likes a bit of supper. Yeah, we're a business. Please set the hooks, dude. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, we're in.
Good man. A head shake the second second. Got a bit of weight behind us,
Going towards it.
Can we pull all the rod in?
No, it's something big.
It's just taking it easier, please. That's tortilla. Yeah, buddy. Yeah, not a bad fish. It's a double.
I made out the way that one.
Yeah. Right. That's a double. Yeah, that's it.
tap the screen, you should see what the screen's doing. No, on the just there you go. You should see what's.
Yeah, you're in shot. Camera skills. We have a pair there, but forgot to. Yeah, actually not a bad fish, man. The curse is lifted. Scobie's back. Yeah, he played about well before he decided he's going to have it. Typical of all the runs today, really. You could set a mash on. Give you the scales out.
In the bag, just now. I'm gonna. I don't know if I can get them.
Do you want me to put them in the water for a second?
Hold them in that now. Bring them up this and I'll put them. I'll weigh them in there. Maybe 15 pound.
I give you 13, 14. But if it's 15, even better. Yeah, correct enough. Just very lean. Put it on.
Yeah, nice fish.
Yeah, cracking one. 2 doubles in one day. Not to be sniffed at. Like it.
Come on. 13 pound, 12 and a half, 13?
Yeah,
12 and a half.
12 and a half, bang on. Yep, nice double one.
12 and a half pound. 12 and a half. Not that the light's going, so we might not be able to see that being released. We'll get some photographs of her down by the water's edge.